The Wide Awakening with Jennifer Hough presents How to End Self Sabotage. Re-listen over and over to deepen your experience and understanding, and feel free to share with friends. And now, here is author, speaker, and coach, Jennifer Hough.
Hello, everyone. Wow, Rob, that was very sexy. Just so you know, Rob is our technical and back office person. So great to have you on board, Rob. And I'm excited to go through this tonight with everybody. So, hi. For those of you who've never met me before, it's great to meet you. And for those who are just joining us for the first time, I just wanted to tell you I'm excited. I'm excited that you're here. I think that's one thing that all of us have in common, that at some point we were big self-saboteurs, or maybe we still are, or maybe on certain subjects we definitely sabotage ourselves. So there is lots to talk about tonight. And we're ready to rock and roll. So, for those of you who don't know me yet, and I just want to say hi, Irene, and I see a whole bunch of people that I do know. For those of you that don't know me, though, let me tell you a little bit about me so that you understand how I got into this and how it's like such a passion of mine to assist people to be able to fly. Before we go into that, I wanted to give you a little bit of an outline of what it is that we are going to talk about tonight. So what we're going to talk about tonight, and I want you to know that I've made copious notes, and we're going to say some stuff tonight that we haven't said anywhere else. We haven't said it in this way, and we most certainly are going to take you on an experiential journey rather than a journey of something where we're just lecturing to you, we're just spouting words. So the first question I have for everyone is, are you actually willing to go on an experiential journey that as a result of our communion tonight, you actually are changed? Are you willing to let go of a paradigm that maybe you've had in the past, that only so much can happen, or you need to be fixed first, or somehow something has to happen where you're maybe made better first before you can actually get on with your life? Are you willing to actually know that in a very short amount of time, things can change? Now, you might say yes, but I'm going to tell you that as we go through this evening, as you go through this experience, you're going to notice that a lot of energy moves. So I want to kind of set you up that at some points there's going to be things that happen in your brain, and they're probably going to be self-sabotaging behaviors. Things like, I know this already, I've heard this already, please don't do that tonight, because what we're doing is very different. Some of the words might sound the same, but because of some freaky things about the technology that we've evolved, it's going to be very different. So I want to make sure that you don't check out because maybe you think you already know. The second thing is that you may find yourself also having conversations within you about, gosh, I can't do this. It's not possible for me. It's too heavy duty, or it's only for special people. Because we're going to show you some things, and you're going to feel some things, and you're going to think, well, I can't do that, or that's not me, or it's impossible, or it can't go that fast for me. That's for other special people. And I want to let you know that that's not true either. That's another self-sabotaging mechanism. You're also going to find out that through the course of our experience together, that you'll want to go back to old habits. And old habits are habits like, I have to fix myself first in order to get on with what she's talking about. In order for me to fly, I have to fix myself first. So you'll even hear everything we're talking about. You'll put yourself in the framework of all of our cultural beliefs around self-sabotage are that if we would only fix ourselves, if we would only transcend every way we sabotage ourselves, then we can get on with the unique piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth that we are. Then we can get on with shining our light. I'm here to tell you as a living example that that is total malarkey. That isn't true at all. In fact, it's a great trick of the part of you that's afraid that would make up that you actually can't fly first and have all of the things that you perceive stop you, let's say, dissolve and fade. I like to use the word transmute. Transmute as a result of your flight. And I'm going to give you an example. In other words, it's as though in your willingness to be seen, in your willingness to fly forward, in your willingness to follow that thread of urgency, and I'm going to ask, do you have that sense of urgency? Have you ever had that sense of urgency that you're something more, that you're here to do more, that your life is about a little bit more? That perhaps there's something more calling you. You might not even have your finger on it, but you can feel that there's something there. And from that place of knowing that there's something more, you actually feel the calling, but at the same time, there's this thing that says, well, I can't do that because I'm living within the paradigm that says, I have to fix all the reasons why I can't do that in order to fly. The other lie we tell ourselves is, well, I want to make sure that it's really super, I don't have any fears about it before I fly. What a paradox. What if you actually can have the fears and they become irrelevant? What if, now listen closely because this is the paradigm in which we live. And when I say we live, it's the technology that, that I was granted, let's say, that assists, that I feel very privileged to be talking about tonight, that assists people to go beyond the idea, and just look and see if you want to do this. Is it something that calls you to go beyond the idea of self-analysis, self-evaluation, collecting evidence for everything from this life and every past life, and then spending the rest of this life excavating everything you perceive is in your way before you actually get on with the life that you came here for? Do you want to continue doing that? Because if you do, you're in the wrong place. Tonight is all about how you transcend the need to fix, to look at every little issue. Hopefully it's piquing your interest already. Like, how would you do that? How would you do that? How would you possibly transmute or dissolve hundreds and sometimes thousands of sabotaging belief systems and behaviors in a very short amount of time? And the answer is, paradoxically, not to analyze and look at the behaviors, but to actually start to activate and take action and get on with the truth of who you really are. And there's a technology around that to embody, or in other words, have it become such an integral, automatic piece of you to be who you came here to be, that expansive energy forward starts to make all of this stuff from behind you dissolve and become irrelevant and start to no longer have a hold on you. But you don't need to analyze most of it. Some of it occasionally because it serves, but you don't need to analyze most of it. It actually starts to dissolve as you go forward. I hope this makes sense to you as a difference in the way to approach tonight. I really wanted to make sure that your ears are open and that you are listening from a framework that isn't the same old, same old. Speaking of not the same old, I would say that I, like you, are probably in the not belonging club, or have felt like I'm in the not belonging club. Perhaps some of you feel like you're in the belonging club, but I certainly have felt like I look at things a little bit differently, or I live my life kind of feeling like I have a broader view, or somehow all my life I've questioned things. You know, I never took anything as, you know, as it was written. And I always could feel what was going on around me. I was always very sensitive. I could always feel what was happening with people around me. Not to say that I would say anything about it, because I sure as heck wouldn't. But, and I thought everyone could do that. But as it turns out, for those of you that are sensitive and feel lots of stuff, not everyone can feel all that stuff. And it is only a unique group in the population that actually feels the incongruencies in others and feels that something's wrong in the way something is going on. I call people like that congruency meters, you know, people who really understand that life could go a different way, or people could act a different way, but they don't. And so from my position, you know, growing up extremely shy, never wanting to speak in front of anybody, for sure not wanting to, you know, we've had such an amazing response to the subject tonight, for sure not wanting to, you know, put myself out in front of people, certainly. Trying to get out of every, you know, talk about self-sabotage. I spent my entire high school, I think, trying to think of strategies to avoid speaking in front of people. And here I am doing it for a living. So I want to make sure that you guys understand that, you know, I am not your guru. There's some weird things about me that I would love to share, especially with people who've never been with us before, but, and I'll get to that in a second. And you'll see me referring to notes tonight, which is very unusual for me. Generally, I actually just, and you'll see there'll be parts of this where I just am in a flow with something other than me that is probably all of your collective wisdoms. So let me give you an outline of how it's going to go. We're going to go an hour and a half from about now, okay? We will take some specific questions. We will also, that will be saved till the end. We have some very important things to get through and some major paradigm shifts. Some of the paradigm shifts are even in the way you're listening to me. Again, as I said, a lot of you probably joined tonight coming like, oh my God, what they said is we're going to learn how to end self-sabotage, which I'm definitely going to show you. There is no question. And you'll be, I hope your mind will expand. It's not going to be the same old ride. I hope you get to see it a little bit differently by the way that we talk about it. And when I say we, I will explain to that to you in a second. An hour and a half. I'm going to explain to you the definition of self-sabotage that'll help you transcend it, that you may not have heard it this way before. I'm going to hear from a few of you as to how you perceive you self-sabotage and how you perceive you stop yourself, and then where you think that comes from, to make sure that we're both on the same, you know, on the same track. Then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, because for most of you, you probably notice, as I did before I made a little quantum leap, you'll probably notice that there are repetitive patterns that keep coming back around. It doesn't matter how many workshops you do. It doesn't matter how many gurus you talk to. It doesn't matter. It just keeps coming back around. Same pattern just shows up. And what I'm going to explain tonight is something we do with Fortune 500 companies. It's something we do in a program called Get Out of Your Own Way. It's something that we do that I've never actually articulated fully. And I want to articulate it fully so you understand that you don't have to get over your karma or somehow excavate everything in your way, or, you know, make up for your family's bad habits, or, you know, heal your entire past before you fly. So we're going to talk about how that's possible, because you may think, like, I want to believe it's possible. I know it is possible, but I want to show it to you so vividly that, well, if I should say it bluntly, that the rest of your life becomes about this new paradigm, becomes about this willingness to get on with it rather than needing to fix and excavate, right? Because if we all did that, we'd be expanding heaven on earth together, and I'll tell you why that means something to me. We'd be fast tracking the evolution of this planet so that we don't wipe ourselves out before we even had a chance to finally get to the heaven that it was supposed to be. And the heaven that our lives is supposed to be, because it really is supposed to be in that heavenly flow of expansiveness forward. And so many of us don't, you know, so many of you probably don't feel that way. And some of you do, and this will be a great access into more, right? Another thing about tonight is, and I think it's very important, is that I'm not here to be anyone's guru. In fact, what I would say is my entire job on the planet is to make sure that you become your own guru. As soon as you give your power away to someone who's teaching, and when I tell you a few things about myself, it would be very easy to do, and I'll get to those things. They'll be a little eye-opening, kind of weird, but it's all good. I really request that you understand that where I am coming from is the point of view that from the place where I actually can see, feel, sense the collective of groups that I work with, whether it's in person or this way. What happens is, when that first started happening to me, which, by the way, just so you know, my background, I grew up in a very middle-class family. I have 2 sisters. I was a straight A student, not because I'm incredibly smart, but because the pressure that I felt from mostly my father to be able to succeed and make something of myself later required those straight A's, and required being a certain kind of girl, and I was a goody two-shoes, and required that, I kept, I was pretty well contained, and I did it all to myself as a result of, and just remember this because it'll come into play as we talk about self-sabotage. And everyone here has a way that you became as a result of your growing up. And I became a perfectionist because my father's father was an engineer and his father was an engineer, and the bridge falls down if everything isn't perfect. And, I got yelled at if it wasn't perfect. And so for me, it was actually a really big deal not to get it perfect. It meant no love, perceptively, in my mind. So the reason I tell you this is because I'm normal, I teach classes. We've been for anywhere from Thailand to UK to everywhere in Canada and North America and gosh, South America. We take people to Peru. I mean, all of those things happen, but it's from the place of me being able to show you after that upbringing and thinking that I was going to end up being an accountant because I took economics and accounting in university, and I thought I was going to, end up working for a big multinational, which I started doing. But then I left because stuff started to happen to me because I felt that sense of urgency inside. And it was so powerful inside of me that at some point I actually left in the middle of a great performance review, like literally picked up and left. And it was very weird to them because it was a great package, a great company to work for, but I knew that I couldn't. And following that sense of urgency, following what I didn't know then was infinite wisdom, was my own innate wisdom, which, by the way, there's a scientific explanation for. There's actually a part of your body that connects to the infinite part of you, called your telomeres at the end of your chromosomes, where, and we'll get to it, but basically information between the 99% of existence that is not three-dimensional, in other words, the non-atomic part of existence, and you, what we would call the universe or creation, whatever you want to call it, you actually have the capacity to learn the language of that. You're actually built to know that language. So part of ending self-sabotage is no longer operating from the mind that's trying to wrestle life to the ground like I was, trying to get the university degree or the straight A, or following the strategies of the book, or following some guru. In fact, the only way to permanently end self-sabotage is to actually become your own guru. Can you get how that would be true? You would actually have to start to understand your connection to greater wisdom, and that there is a language that it speaks to everyone. And some people are born having a natural propensity. They just, from whatever past life, if you believe that, they're coming into this life. And if you don't believe that, it doesn't matter. They just seem to have the it factor. And I've spent my life, after leaving the big multinational, I've spent my life actually trying to scientifically figure out what it is that has some people be able to follow that innate wisdom, and other people seeming like they're going round in circles and seeming like they don't have that strong a connection. And so they look to other people, and they look to books, and they look to courses to actually give them their own answers, which of course would sabotage them over and over and over again, because the only one that has your answers is you. So how I want you to listen tonight is not like I'm going to give you your answers. We'll do some things that are really helpful. We'll definitely have some tools that'll help, but you want to know that my job is not to give you my answers for you. My job is to assist you, and hopefully this makes sense to everybody. My job is to assist you to actually find your own connection to your own infinite wisdom, your own connection to your own innate knowingness with total confidence and absolutely no doubt. And it is possible, because I've absolutely facilitated thousands of people to be able to do that. It's kind of working myself out of a job, right? Because truly, if the whole world could do that, we would be coming from a common connection. We'd be coming from a place, infinite wisdom is infinite wisdom for all. And so that's what connects us, that space between the atoms. That's where we're all connected. And so from that place, when we're all following our own flow, and you'll see what I mean in a second. Again, don't lose yourself in the semantics. Here's another sabotaging mechanism. You try to already understand what I'm saying, and you try to already understand it from something you already know, and then you want to already know it so you can write it all off, and then you don't learn something new because you already know it. So it's like a protective mechanism to not be duped or to not be lied to. And what I'm going to invite you to do is not listen to anything I'm saying tonight like the truth. I want you to listen to it like a truth. And I can tell you, one of the hints or the clues that I'm going to give you is, when something is closer to a deeper truth, or gets you closer to your flow, or gets you closer to that thing that's calling you forward, or gets you closer to the reason why you're on the planet, it will feel resonant. There will be a nebulous thing that you don't understand, it's like, no, there's something about this. No matter what your mind does in the mental gymnastics to try to explain it away. It's one of the sabotaging mechanisms. I'm going to protect myself. I don't want to believe a word she says. In fact, I'm going to try to explain it away. I am. You find a lot of intellectual people do that. They try to explain it all the way. Well, I can explain exactly what she's talking about. I know exactly what's happening. I already know it. I've already extrapolated. I already get it. Da, 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 da. And what it does is it stops you from actually getting what there is to get, right? And I'm so glad, Suzanne, that you want to know your own. Every once in a while, I'm going to make comments on what people comment on webinars on air. I do read them. It's getting dark here in Southern Ontario, so you may see me squinting. The next thing is that there are people on Instant Teleseminar. There are people that have phoned in. Those will probably be the, those people can also make comments. You can make them live at *2 if you would like to make a comment. For those of you that are having trouble with webinars on air, I believe that Rob, our technical person, has actually posted a link to Instant Teleseminar so you can phone in or listen on the web without the video, maybe because your broadband is too slow and it's kind of choppy. So, and I think that's about it. The last thing we're going to do together is we are going to go through some exercises. And those exercises are experiential exercises that are going to allow a switch to flip. And let me explain a little bit as to how that happens. Again, for those of you who joined us late, I see lots and lots of people participating from all over the world, and I just want to say hello to everyone, and you're all so welcome. Our clients are from all over the world, and I'm just so appreciative of everyone being here. So hold on one moment. Just want to make sure that we're all up to speed. Just, you know, I've got my phone here, and what happens is Rob sends me some beautiful texts from people. And thank you all. Oh my gosh. Just all your beautiful, geez whiz, all your beautiful comments. Thank you. So, and someone's just saying, whenever I get into a relationship, the same scenario plays out. The man wants a relationship to remain a secret. Usually this is unspoken but understood, and now all too familiar. Subsequent relationships have shared a secretive aspect. I can't wait to read. I won't be able to read everybody's story, but you can guarantee that I will read a few people's stories. And I love that you guys can hear the crickets here in Southern Ontario. All right, guys, reading some of your comments. Love it. Love it. I'm so glad. People on the hamster wheel. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, so excited. Yippee, yahoo. All right, you guys, I want you to know where this got inspired from. It got inspired from, also, yes, I need to explain some things. You're going to see me sipping this yummy water every once in a while that my sweetie pie put together for me. You're also going to find me sometimes looking like I just did, like out, and you'll think like, wow, that's a little aloof. What's going on with her? So I want to share a little bit of what happened with me so you understand what happened with me so that you know why I said earlier that I'm a little bit odd, okay? Or at least perceptively I am, given that I'm from, just kind of a normal family with a kind of a controlling dad and a really nice mom and, 3 sisters. We're all very different. But what happened to me is this. I worked for that big multinational and I left, and I started working as a business consultant, but even that wasn't it. And fortuitously, by mistake on purpose, I lived on my sailboat as a little rebellious act, and my sailboat started to get what we call osmosis. And that osmosis causes little water bubbles in your hull, which you can imagine is not so good. But I couldn't afford, because I was in my 20s, to finish it. And I got exposed to all sorts of toxicity. And I mean, you gotta get, I was, up until that point, I was very normal. I hadn't hugged a tree in my life, worn a pair of Birkenstocks, you know, certainly never ate a supplement or anything like that. But the doctors weren't able to help me from this toxic overload, and then chronic fatigue, and then chronic migraines, and then depression, and then, gosh, horrible stuff. I was not having a good time. So, and this went on for a couple of years. And once I realized that chronic yeast infections were not due to a monostat deficiency, and chronic migraines were not due to an aspirin deficiency, that I needed to go to someone else that I hadn't considered before. And I started going to holistic practitioners, which was great. They were helping me. I was cleansing. I was very happy to do that. But it was helping me a little bit. Then nutrition ended up helping me the most. And it helped me so much that I ended up running the largest holistic nutrition practice in Canada. But again, what I was doing is I was following my instincts instead of following what everyone else did with holistic practice, with that kind of a business. And from following my instincts, instead of sabotaging, I tried to sabotage myself a few times, but these instincts kept kicking in that would have me keep expanding forward. And I watched myself as other holistic practitioners would struggle and coaches would struggle, just flourishing. And I was wondering, what was this? Is this special about me? But then what happened was even crazier, because it was if someone had told me that I could do this, I probably would have stopped my practice right there. So I'm going to tell you something that happened to me that you can do, okay? This is such a passion of mine, and I'll tell you a story about it as well, because I want you all to have a context for what we're going to do in the exercises. Such a passion for me. But what ended up happening was I started being able, through a series of some of the tools I was using to help people, these very special timelines I was doing that I invented, that just came to me. And I started being able to see, and I'm going to say holographically, I started being able to see people holographically. I started to be able to see their entire past, what I know now to be their other levels of genetics. So in other words, everything that was in their way, their entire past, their entire future trajectory, given if their perspective on their past didn't change, and the diseases that were now forming in their body are already happening. And then what I could also see is what there was to do or say to give them their power back and clean up those issues. And that happened over the 10 or 15 years that I was in practice. And over the 10 or 15 years or 10 years, I guess, 12 years that I was in practice, it became very evident to me that the things that got in people's way about their health weren't just about their health. It was also their entire life. They would come back to me, and what would happen is their entire lives would have changed. Now, as a result of living on that boat, I had all those migraines and all that stuff. But the first thing I had to do is I had to prove to myself that what I was seeing was real. And I did my own hologram and my own, and I got triggered by a few clients that had worse migraines than me one day. And I went to bed that night. And remember, conservative family, growing up, thinking I was going to be an economist, working for a big multinational, following the path that you're supposed to follow based on the, the agenda that I was given by my father and so on. And then all of a sudden, what happened to me, one of the things that changed my life, which was I started to I had wakened dreams for 3 nights in a row where I was writing down information that was all about what all these holograms meant, what people looked like from not just the atomic state. I started to be able to see geometries. I started to be able to see all sorts of stuff about, haven't you ever wondered why people can spontaneously heal? Well, it's all the stuff that I was starting to see. And I thought, oh my God. But what that would do is that would change their entire biochemistry when they would take their power back through a few methodologies, when they would stop sabotaging themselves based on the past, and their health issues would change. Everything from multiple sclerosis to, the huge health issues would change. But then what would happen is it wouldn't just be that. As they got more congruent with this expansive being they were born to be, their relationships would change, their abundance would change, their career would change, all sorts of things would change, because the past was no longer governing their choices. It was no longer causing the fears, or they couldn't take the fears seriously anymore because they could see the bigger picture. That was the beginning. And I want you to know that that was maybe 13, 14 years ago. And since then, we started Get Out of Your Own Way. So tonight is about bringing together the major components, or let's say the fundamental components is more accurate. The most crucial aspects that you need to understand about who you are and why you're here, such that you know what it takes to fly forward, and you will know what it takes to stop allowing those cyclical patterns to be in the way in a very short amount of time. Okay, so my question to you is, are you up for it? So occasionally I'm going to be looking here because I'm going to be seeing the hologram of the collective of you and some of you individually. That's what's going to be happening. But again, I'm not here to give you answers. I'm actually here to show you how you become your own guru, how it actually happens. Okay, what it takes to create the platform to transcend self-sabotage, to become who you came to the planet to be, your piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth, to follow that path, that urgency, that sense of that calling that you have inside, and to stop taking all of those self-sabotaging habits of thought seriously. So you guys are all up for that? Just want to see. I'm glad. Thank you, everyone who, I see a lot of familiar and a lot of not so familiar voices out there. So if you're up for it, cool. All right, Heather and Pam and Mona and Irene and Kathy and Carolyn, yay, hooray. All right, you guys. So let me first give you an example. What I'm going to ask is that for the first part of this, that you breathe. Just breathe for a second. Not as a meditation, not because it's some fancy schmancy tool, just because it's a great way of getting you in your body. That's all. Just breathe. Now, I want you to remember this breath. All right. I want to tell you a story that changed my life. And I'm going to tell it to you in a second. The telling of this story will activate something inside of you that will have you see why it could be so easy to actually let go of all the sabotaging behaviors. Why it would be easy not to have them go away. So one of the ways we sabotage ourselves is we make up a belief that you have to get rid of all the sabotaging behaviors first before you can fly forward. What if you could have all those behaviors still be neurosynaptic highways in your brain, still have them be there, but you could not possibly take them seriously anymore? The part of you that doesn't want you to fly, because it's a survival mechanism over the past several thousand years, the part of you, and we're going to call it your ego, the part of you, which actually is not an originating part, it's an invented part of you. It had to be invented because it had to cope with the idea that human beings are limited and that there are limited resources, there's limited nice people, there's limited relationships, there's limited love, there's limited money, there's limited careers, there's limited everything. We made up that idea so we could play this little game called We're Limited. But we're now getting really tired of that game. But we needed to invent, because we are these amazing creative beings, mostly made up of the 99% of non-atomic space, pure potential really, that's what we're physically made of. Since that's what we're made of mostly, we're actually designed to live in the world of creation and upon pure potential. The space between the atoms that then becomes reality. We'll get to that in a second. But in the meantime, what happens is when we're not living, and that's the truth, the greater truth, the deeper truth, not the truth, the deeper truth that we are more than what we seem. You know, because you feel the sense of urgency. You feel that you're more. You have a sense that you're more. You know you can do more. You can feel it. And we'll get to those feelings, the scientific explanation in a minute. But in the meantime, there are these wonderful belief systems that we've been adhering to, and you may recognize them. I'm just gonna rhyme off a few of them to you to see if you can recognize any of these. Perhaps you recognize these. That your ego might say something like, well, I'm too afraid. I can't get on, you know, until I get over my fears, I can't get on with it. You might even say, I don't know a better way. All I know is what I know. This is how my family did it. This is how everyone does it. I don't even know. Those people that fly, I don't know what they're doing differently than I am. It's a great thing for your ego, that limited part of you that we invented. This is what your ego sounds like. It sounds like, I can't fly yet because I have to be more comfortable and over my fears. That's what it says. Because it doesn't want you to be judged. It doesn't want you to shine and have other people looking at you. It doesn't want you to, why? I'll explain that as well. Maybe it's simply a habit. Maybe you don't even know you're in a habit. You can't even see it. Your ego would also say that other people, it's not being afraid of other people's judgments. It's that those judgments actually matter. So that part of you that doesn't want you to fly actually has other people's judgments matter. I'm going to give you a little clue right now, though. I'm not going to leave you hanging on that one. See, here's the thing, you guys. The entire universe, creation, infinite wisdom, whatever you want to call it that was here before you were, looked at every star system, every solar system, every universe, every comet, every blade of grass, it's in and of everything. It has the experience of all of it. It had the experience of all of that, and in an instant on a planet that was waking up, that was trying to find its heaven on earth, that was trying to finally get on with no longer living in limitation or believing people that manipulate us, trying to finally break free of the power that we perceive others might have over us, which of course they don't, you'll see. As we're finally trying to fly, the universe considers, in the intent of that, in the actions that we've taken, we've shown that we want that. And the universe responds to your actions, not to your intentions. It responds minutely. But to you actually acting on something that you think is important, which is what people are starting to do, the universe is all over. Creation is all over. Feeling and watching and experiencing your actions of courage. So imagine, in a time of great change, you came to this beautiful place called planet Earth. And in coming here, you became a piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth in times of great change. Now, the urgency you feel inside is the view the universe had of you based on all of your skill sets and all your natural propensities and all the trajectories. In other words, whether you were musical or you could mediate, or you were someone who was, you know, unconditionally loving, or someone who is great at math or inventing things, whatever those natural propensities are, all culminate in the piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth that you are, and you're being called to that. And then the ego says, yeah, but you don't want to be too shiny at that. You don't want to fly forward too much at that, because then people will judge you. But here's the thing, my friends. Whether you do what you came here to do, if you haven't noticed, or whether you don't do what you came here to do, have you not noticed that people judge you anyways? So whether you fly forward as the piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth that you are, or don't do it and do what you're currently doing and have people carry you and judge you and think you're a victim or whatever it is, if you actually don't fly forward with the piece of, if you do fly forward with the piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth, here's a great clue. At least one of you is happy. You understand? You getting on with it, people are going to judge anyway. So that's one of the things the ego says, but I you know, feel very called to share with you that either way, if you want to believe, you know that what I just said is true. They're going to judge anyways. So another thing that your ego says is, I think I know this already. I think I got it. I know it. Now here's how you know you don't know it on a cellular level, or you haven't embodied it. You're not actually living it and your life hasn't changed. So it doesn't matter. So a lot of times when people are in these workshops with me, or we're doing this kind of work, what happens is people think that they already know it, and it's a protective mechanism, because what it actually does is it stops you from actually getting what there is to get that would have you fly, but it's usually because we're scared. We actually don't want to embody it fully, because then we'd have to take action, right? Another one is, I'm going to go it alone. I'm going to figure it out myself. I don't need anybody's help. There's probably a lot of people that aren't here tonight that probably said that. I'm going to try really hard. Another one is, after a communion like this, you'll say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to take everything she said, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to take what she said. She gave me the instructions, but I'm going to tell you that what we're going to do for the last half an hour is not based on instructions. It's not based on an intellectual understanding of what I'm talking about. It's based on a cellular embodiment, on a permanent subatomic shift within you in the way you approach everything. Sometimes we're trying to prove that we're not who our father said we were. Nice English. Okay, so that's what sabotage looks like. That's what your ego looks like. That's what it sounds like. So this is the beginning of our process. What does your ego sound like? I'm going to ask. What does your ego sound like? I'm asking. And Heather, I love what you said. You said, so if we just reside peacefully in not knowingness, no. And thank you for saying that, because that's not actually what I'm saying. We're only halfway through the conversation right now. I'm just activating some stuff, and what you asked is so perfect, because what I'm going to show you is what's necessary to be in your knowingness. Because this is an evolution, and it takes practice, and it takes courage, but I want you to see what it takes to stop sabotaging yourself, and to stop needing to excavate the past to finally get to a place where you're in your flow, okay? It is the perfect question that you asked. Do we just keep staying calm and knowing that everything is happening for us? And Heather, I want you to know, I mean, that's why we teach Get Out of Your Own Way. That's what that whole workshop is about, right? So what does your ego sound like, you guys? What does it sound like? What does it say? I just want to read some of them out loud. It's a distraction. Oh, that's a great one, right? You get distracted by other stuff. Oh, you know, this is calling me. I gotta sell that on eBay. I gotta, you know, first my house has to be fixed. Oh, I can't get on with my coaching practice. I don't even have a sign. I don't have cards. Wow, really? The piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth that you are really needs a sign, or even that your house be fixed before your office is okay? I started my practice on a pink shag carpet in a tar paper shack, honestly. So Susanna's saying, my ego has a lot of failure versus success paradigms. You know, another egoic thing to understand that our ego says is that there's such thing as failure or success, when in actuality, all there is your expansive journey forward. You can't fail or succeed in the universe, because the universe doesn't fail or succeed. It just expands forward. It's constantly changing. There's no end game. So it's impossible to succeed or fail. That's a human paradigm, right? So my ego says if you make a mistake, others will reject you and abandon you. So better not be noticed, right? My ego says I'm too sick. I'm too sick. I can't do it, Viviana says. My ego says you'll just fail, which of course is hilarious, given that, in all honesty, that we've made failure and success important is a tool of the ego to stop you from ever flying. Who cares if you succeed or fail according to who, right? I love it. So many people have that one. My ego says I don't know enough yet. You know, in our coach training course, it's one of the first things I say. I said, ask your best friend. Ask your best friend, what is your piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth? Who are you being in every day? What wisdom do you bring to the world? And your best friend will always tell you honestly what it is. And there are people, you would not feel the yearning to be that coach or that practitioner or that consultant or that whatever it is you want to do, unless you already had something to share with others, because the urgency you feel to get on with it is the others calling you forward that can already feel you have something to share. So the calling forward is someone else already knowing that you have something to share. Isn't that interesting? Energetically, in the quantum field, that's how it happens. So I love that. Katie's saying, excavating the past is a distraction. Exactly. Katie's in our flight school program. William's saying, my ego says I'm not lovable. I'm just not lovable. What's the point? I'm not lovable anyways. Ego is second guessing what I do. In other words, we lose confidence, right? Ooh, I can't wait to get to what we're going to talk about. Okay. All right. All right, guys. Thank you. I got it. Beautifully put. Love it. Love it. If you are on the phone, in a second, I'm going to need a guinea pig, but I want to share with you some stuff, guys. What is self-sabotage? Self-sabotage is The part of you that remembers the world for many lifetimes as a place where only certain people get ahead and certain people don't. It remembers the world as a place where if you're too shiny, you get hung on a cross, you get hung somewhere, you get hung other ways, you get burnt in a fire, you get hunted, you get whatever. You get raped and pillaged. You don't want to be too shiny. Your ego, that part of you that is trying to protect you from all of that horrible outcome, is also stopping you. So it's stopping you over here when there's this whole life waiting over here. This is supposedly protecting you from getting hurt, but not causing you to fly at all. When you start to be willing to see it another way, so one of the things that we said in our communication about tonight is that one of the most important paradigms I can share with you is it is about activating the deepest truth of who you are, allowing yourself to be seen as the piece of puzzle of heaven on earth that you are, the way the universe first saw you before you got here, so powerfully that it becomes integrated within you, that all of the stuff that you perceive has been stopping you, that you think you need to excavate, all of a sudden becomes incredibly uninteresting. That's one of the parts of the technology of what we use. And I'm going to do that with someone tonight in the next half an hour. Okay? All right. I'm going to give you an example of it. I lived it. No one did that for me, but I realized very quickly that I was given opportunities to see life, to see others, to see myself so powerfully that I literally cannot not do what I'm doing. I can't not do it. And it scares the living daylights out of me because I see some crazy stuff. I work with some crazy stuff. I talk to people that I think to myself, how the heck am I going to help them? And yet at the end of the conversation, we're shown everything we need and everything expands. And I know that everyone can do the same thing because I've seen it over and over and over again. Okay? So I'm saying the same paradigm again because I want you guys to get it. It isn't about fixing all this stuff so you can fly. It's about seeing who you are as a piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth. That this way of shifting has just been made available in the last little bit by consciousness because people weren't even willing to consider that embodying who you really are as the piece of the puzzle of heaven and earth that you came to be is actually a way to leave behind hundreds, if not thousands, of sabotaging belief systems. And I just want you to feel that that's possible within you to start with. So that's where we start. That it's possible to awaken by awakening as opposed to by getting rid of all the stuff that you perceive is stopping you from awakening. Hopefully I've said it enough now that you're starting to feel what it is that we're up to here. Okay. There's something, I want to share an event in my life that's an activation of sorts. It'll open things for you so we can do the exercises. So, a couple of things. You know, I remember I worked at, and some of you have heard this story before. For those of you who've worked with me before, I'm sure you've heard it. Just hear it more deeply. For those of you who haven't heard this story, please. I just want to make sure there's no uploading or video casts. I don't know. Okay. So what happened is this. I was working with street kids. This was in my late 20s. I was working with street kids. I was working at an agency on the weekend while I was working for that big multinational. My boyfriend at the time had brought me there, and I worked at something called Intake. And it was where some of the kids would come, and we would intake them and hear their stories, and they would have some food, and we'd be able to take care of them for a couple days, but not for too long. You could imagine what their family lives were like, that they would leave their house and prefer to live on the streets of Toronto. And so even then, I could see and feel energy. I could see and feel what was going on with people. And I remember I had just been hired at part-time on weekends in the evenings, where I would go out on this van and work with, we would feed people who couldn't come. They were too dangerous. They had drug issues and, all sorts of problems. And I remember being hired as a part-time caseworker. And I didn't have a social work degree, but they saw that, I had a big heart and, had some smarts about people. And the guy that led the place said to me in one of my first couple of days as a paid employee, Jennifer, we want you to walk this girl, Angel. Now, Angel wasn't her name. About a third of the girls there were named Angel. They called themselves Angel. And he said, we want you to walk Angel over to be accepted to the psych ward because she has schizophrenia. And I thought to myself, wow. He said, remember, no touching, no, you can't hold hands, you can't You're just there to walk her over. You can listen to her, but, business is business. And up until this point, I had noticed that the caseworkers were people that were pretty cold and jaded, and they kept their emotions. And I didn't get it, because I wasn't a full-time caseworker. I didn't get the full paradigm of it. But after this, I did, because it took me 10 minutes to walk her to where she needed to be. I let her go in the room. I knew that as soon as I let her go into the building that I needed to bring her to, she was going to become a number, and that they were going to, but on the way, in those 10, 12 minutes that she spoke to me, she told me her entire life story, what her father did to her, what her brothers did to her. It was pretty heinous. And being from the family that I was from, it broke my heart. It was horrible. It was more than horrible. It was real. It wasn't a movie. It was somebody truly telling me their story. And with every word, I couldn't do anything but just squeeze her hand more tightly after being told that I wasn't supposed to touch her. But I could not hold her hand. She was spilling her guts to me in a completely non-schizophrenic way, by the way. She totally told me everything. And I could tell why she would want to be schizophrenic and have times where she didn't want to be in this reality. Very smart of the brain. But I left her to be accepted into the psych ward. And I went down the bottom of the stairs and I fell to my knees and I started crying because I could feel the pain of her, the pain of everyone like her, the pain of everyone in India, the pain of everyone in Africa, the pain of everyone that ever had those types of things happen. And I knew in an instant that I had a choice to become one of those jaded caseworkers and to turn off all my emotions. But it was almost like I knew that I would die that day if I did that. If I turned off my feelings, I would die. That if I turned off my feelings, if I stopped feeling because that was too hard to hear, that was too hard to take, that was too tough to witness, which you want to look in your own life. When did you turn off your feelings? When did you say, I don't want to feel anymore? It's too hard. It hurts. I don't want to feel anymore. When did you do that? And I remember bawling. And I looked up to the sky, even though I'd already said, I don't want to, I said, I don't want to go to the Anglican church anymore. I questioned all religion. I even talked with my physics, prof in high school about God and tried to figure it out. And I looked up into the sky and I went, okay, if there is something up there, you better show me another way, because I can't have been given feelings just to turn them off. That can't be it. I mean, they give so much joy and so much richness, but that was so painful, I can hardly stand it. What do I do with it? And I was shown two things, and the reason I'm sharing this with you is because it's part of ending self-sabotage. I told you, you have to be able to see yourself before you can start to transmute all the rest of that stuff. And what happened was, and I just want to check, Rob. I want to see how many people are having audio or video issues, if it's on our end or if it's on your end. Is everyone able to hear me okay and see me okay? If you guys can just type in, I just want to make sure, okay? So, because if you are, you can always call on instant teleseminar. Okay, good, I'm glad, okay. So you guys, okay, good. So you guys, here's the deal. As I'm sitting there and I'm crying and then I'm looking up in the sky, this feeling came over me. It wasn't even a voice, it was like a block of information. And in the instant, I could feel 3 different ways that this could go, okay? And the 3 different ways that it could go are, 1, I lose all my feelings. So again, I'm gonna ask you guys, when did you say to yourself, I'm not gonna feel anymore? Life is too tough, I don't wanna feel. I just wanna find some strategies, follow my head, not listen to my heart anymore. I'm just gonna not feel. When did you do that? So then what happened was I said, that's not an option. And then the feeling was I could carry everyone. I could take everyone home. I could take every stray dog, every kid, everything. You know, I could travel the world and just, you know, do all that. And I'm like, I couldn't. I would die doing that. And think of how many of us carry as a way to sabotage our flight forward. We carry everybody else. We carry their pain. We carry their happiness. We carry their everything. We carry our own. And I thought that's not an option either. So what is it that I do? What do I do? And what came was, and I'll tell you, it was mind-blowing when it came, but it came in such a block of information that was irrefutable, and there was no way I couldn't do it. And I wanted to pay it forward to everybody else. In an instant, I didn't just feel or channel or get information from, I actually knew. I actually knew instantly a deeper truth. Because I thought to myself, I just had a knowing that there was some kind of creative force that made stuff. I also knew, don't you remember as a child knowing at some point when you were 2 years old or 1 year old, how do they know they're safe? How do little ones know that they're okay? How can they run across the back of the couch, you know, across the drapes with a pair of scissors and know it's not gonna, they're not gonna fall on it? How do we know we're not gonna get hurt? How do we know that? How do they bomb down a ski hill with no ski poles when I'm like turning left and right and left and right? Well, because they know. They're in their knowing. They're in their connection. And in an instant, I had a feeling like a 5-year-old just knowing. And it came in the words, and this is what I want you all to hear. By the way, this is activating something inside of you that I'm going to call your telomeric connection to infinite wisdom. We're going to talk about telomeres in a second, and then we're going to do an exercise. So what happened to me is the knowing that came was, Jennifer, you and every human being, but we're going to start with you, have the capacity. It's kind of like Mission Impossible. If you should choose, you have the capacity to affect change on a global level by being willing to become yourself and then be yourself regardless of what anyone else thinks. You have the capacity. Every human being has the capacity, has innate abilities, or it would be a big cosmic joke. Why would human beings be planted on a planet that's so beautiful, with so many beautiful souls? What kind of cosmic joke would infinite wisdom be playing if all it does is want to expand forward in its heavenly flow of love, why would we be the exception? It doesn't make sense at all. And as soon as I heard this, I just knew it was a deeper truth. I knew it. I knew in that knowing place that I was thinking about me at the time. I wasn't thinking about everybody else. I was thinking about me because I was in pain. And I knew in an instant that if I chose to have courage, and someone asked earlier, what part does courage play? I'll tell you that if you haven't had a sense of being seen or reflected back cellularly, multidimensionally, the truth of who you are, which is it's one of the technologies that we use when we're teaching Get Out of Your Way. We can't do it here because it would take too long. But in the program we do called Get Out of Your Own Way, it's a way of seeing yourself the same way I got shown who I am. And then it's literally the ability to pay that forward. It's one of the pieces, it's what got given in that moment, what started. It's the trajectory that got started in my late 20s, that I got to see what human potential was like, and that can be activated within anyone. It can be remembered by anyone. And the instant that happened, the fears that would have me be anything less dissipated so much, because I could see the forward trajectory in my cells. It became real physically. I embodied it. It became a part of me because I knew it was a deeper truth. And in that profound activation started this human being right here, flying forward to find the science and find the understandings and be brave enough and have the courage enough. I didn't have to have more courage. I had to see who I was so that it was unmistakable, and I lost my doubt. And as soon as you lose your doubt, that's when those crazy, egoic, self-sabotaging patterns become unbelievably uninteresting. Now, is that, so this is our first, you're not broken and you don't need fixing. And if you spend the rest of your life trying to fix yourself so you can get on with it, it's just a very convenient distraction now that you know what I just told you. There isn't a person listening right now that doesn't have the capacity, and all I wanted to do tonight is to have you understand that you have the capacity to remember the truth of who you are so profoundly. Now, we do it very quickly. We do it in a weekend and Get Out of Your Own Way. And it's in person with 25 people. However, you know, again, remember, watch your ego, because the ego says, well, you know, I'm going to do this myself. People who've embodied that can activate it in others, which is part of why I'm doing this. Because if I can assist to activate you, your presence, you just become the activation of the permission of people to be who they came here to be through your existence. You don't have to do anything. But the pain that I felt became the catalyst. The pain of that girl who I wish I, you know, at the time I just wanted to take her home. The pain of that girl became the catalyst. It needed to happen to have me feel enough pain to see that there was another way from becoming yet another jaded human being. And from there, I could tell you stories and stories, but it would take too long, of how the embodiment of the piece of the puzzle of heaven and earth that I am became. And that my piece of the puzzle is to assist you to become your piece of the puzzle. Because I decided on that day that if I could help it, those kinds of things Which is why we take journeys to third world countries all over the world, spiritual centers all over the world in third world countries. When we go there, it's like a knowingness bomb goes off. A change, a shift. We get to bring the shift with us. We become the embodiment of that knowing. And it changes those around us because they can tell by the way we're being, and they can feel it within them just the way you're feeling it now for me. And it's not that I think that you're a piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth. Because I see things holographically, I know that you are a piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth. And it is not my job to tell you how to do that, but it is my job to activate and assist you to see that, so that it becomes so profound within you that the same thing happens to you. Those self-sabotaging habits start to dissipate. So, from here, do you understand what I'm talking about? Can you kind of sense what I'm saying here? Does it make sense to you? Can you understand the paradigm shift from excavating the old to actually activating who you are? So what does courage have to do with it? Well, you can see when you start to see who you really are and that you actually do have the tools, but there's a piece missing. So we're going to do that piece right now. So one of the exercises we're going to do is around your telomeres. So let me explain something to you. I really want to explain something very important. This is a scientific understanding. Now, you will not find this anywhere in a peer-reviewed journal, okay? So if you go looking for it online, you won't find it. So there have been more studies that have come out recently, but I'm going to talk about the original studies that were done on telomeres. Many of you have heard about telomeres, and why I want to show you this is because no one before has been able to explain why intuition happens, or why we have instincts, or why we have these knowingnesses. What if you could be in your knowing all the time? If you knew like you knew like you knew, because I saw someone else make a beautiful comment about the fact that what their ego does, a few of you said, what your ego does is it actually says stuff like, yeah, but I'm not sure, or I don't have the confidence to know that this is true. What if you could have the confidence? What if you spoke the language of your highest knowing? What if you could be in that? What if it was a skill to learn rather than some woo-woo thing for gurus and special people? What if it was a commonplace, normal way of being? Do you understand? Rather than something that we've put on a pedestal. What if those certain people are just doing something that you can learn to do? So Pam's just saying in my head, but not how to take action. I totally understand that. And Heather's saying, I think I understand that if I just start doing the things that I'm aligned with, that will be my answer. Is that it? Almost, Heather, but stay with me because it's juicier than that. I want to make sure you get it exactly, because if you go with that, you won't have it exactly, then, blah, 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 right? So I want to make sure that everyone gets this as well as we can all get it. And Emily, what I'm saying to you is your truth, not my truth, your truth, not my truth, by the way. The knowingness, it's not a truth. I'm not looking for truth or to have faith at all. But after watching my own life fly forward when I have no reason to be, you know, I did not go to, I mean, I did go to India and I spoke at a huge spiritual conference, but I didn't go there as a guru on a mountaintop. I didn't, you know, this is actually innate to every human being. It's the feeling inside that you know there's more to you. That's the thread you want to follow. It's just the more to us, we don't have a reference point for what that is. And I'm giving you a reference point that if the entire universe thought you were a good idea in a flash, considering every human that ever was, every human that is, in a time of great change, every blade of grass, every star system, the universe is in, just think about it, is the universe in and of every aspect of creation? Did it not create every aspect of creation? Is it not omnipotent and omniscient? Of course. And you are that. You are a function of that. You are an expression in human form of all of creation. You, even from a scientific perspective, you are made from the original particles, as Neil deGrasse would say, from the original particles and atoms that ever were, that contain all of the information that ever made anything. So of course, you have to have a way to know who you are and why you're here. It's an expansive universe and you're part of that expansion. It would be impossible for it to be any other way. It doesn't make any sense. Now, a great thing of the ego is to argue it, but what you want to feel is you want to feel the expansive nature of that consideration. And as you're willing to embody that yourself, and embodying it means understanding that piece of the puzzle of heaven and earth that you actually are, letting yourself truly be seen by others, by another, by others. And where it might start, for many people that work with me, it starts in Get Out of Your Own Way, because it's not waiting years to kind of get who you are. In a weekend, we really show you who human beings are and who you, every person in the room gets individually worked with. So who you specifically are, right? But you see, when you understand how the human body is, when you upgrade that knowingness, and it's hard, you know, I know there's going to be some of you that don't understand what I'm about to say. It isn't a basic concept, but I'm going to show you how telomeres work, and I think that will help. At the end of all your chromosomes, in the middle of your DNA, okay, in the middle of every cell, you have 75, well, you have between 30 and 100 trillion cells, depending on which biologist you ask. Those cells are, they're what your body is comprised of in a physical sense. Of course, those cells are made of molecules, you know, and those molecules are made of atoms, and those atoms have electrons and protons and neutrons and all that kind of stuff. But when we go down to the most fundamental particles, the space between the electrons and the nucleus and the protons and all that comprises of and the space between each atom comprises over 99%. We call it, and it depends on which physicist you ask and what definition you use, but between 96 and 99.139% of all that is made of what we call dark matter, what I call pure potential. So we're mostly made up of the space between, you understand. We're made of pure potential. We're the living manifestation of something that can think and create, like creation. And we're made up of and swimming in a soup of pure potential. So a creator swimming in a soup of pure potential. What do you think our life is about, right? Of course we were given the tools. And the telomeres are just one of the tools. There's so many others, but this is a fundamental understanding you need to have in order to transcend self-sabotage. At the end of all your chromosomes are these little telomeres. They're sender, receiver, satellite dishes. They receive photon packages of light, and they're what gets affected the most when there's a solar flare. You know how we feel off when there's a solar flare? That's because there's photon packages of light coming towards us. And it's a surge. Now, the interesting thing about these telomeres is that when science has studied them, there's been several different studies that have shown something very interesting. And I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version, okay? The synopsis. These sender-receiver satellite dishes that you have, let's say, 75 trillion sets of, on average, sets of. There's many, many telomeres per cell. It's on the end of all your chromosomes. So however many chromosomes you have, that's how many sets of telomeres you have. So here you are, someone with 75 trillion sets of something in one human body. You know, there's only 7.5 billion people on the entire planet. And you have 75 trillion receivers of photon packages of light from all of consciousness. So you're receiving photon packages of information. The photons are what deliver information. You know, when people channel, they're in photon packages of light. How do the cells know to divide? How do you know to breathe? How does one little cell know to become a baby? How does the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system work? How do parts of you work completely without you? How do you just know to turn left when the directions say right? Where does that come from? Well, in these scientific studies, what they found was you could explain about 80% of what your telomeres do from within the body. In other words, cells speak to each other via telomeres. There's information in the body where the telomeres are getting communications of chemicals so that cells know what each other is doing, right? So that's a cool thing. And it causes the body to work. You wonder why the cells can talk to each other. Well, why the cells know how to work in harmony. That's one of the mechanisms. So perfect. And the longer your telomeres, the longer you live. But the telomeres don't get longer from taking supplements. The telomeres get longer from using them. And what do telomeres do? Only between 8 and 15% of the activity in the telomeres is taken up by what happens in the body. About 80 to 85%, or let's see, not 85 to 90% of what happens in the body. So sorry, 85 to 90% of what happens in the body is not happening physically. It's happening non-physically with respect to the telomeres. 85 to 90% of the telomeric activity is not occurring interbodily. It's not in the body. The activity is coming from outside of the body and coming to the body. Those are the photon packages of light that contain the information. That's where instinct and intuition and your higher wisdom comes from. What if you could operate from a default of that language of the telomeres? It's a learning. It's called going direct. But it requires that you actually get out of your own way a little bit, or sometimes a lot. Because the protective mechanisms of the ego, the identities. So here's one of the exercises, and then we're going to work with one person, and then we're going to close up, okay? And the exercise and then working with one person is going to be a life changer for everyone. So I hope you can stick around for this. I do want to let everyone know too, we are actually next weekend doing a Get Out of Your Own Way in Windsor, Ontario, which is just across the border from Detroit. Okay, so if you are within, well, we get people flying in from London, England, and all over the place. But I can't encourage you enough to come and have that experience. It's like the fast track of everything we're talking about here. However, let's get to the telomeres and let's have an experience of them. Everybody breathe for a moment. Now, I want you to take your consciousness. Some of you are going to very easily be able to do this. Without complication, I want you to take your awareness to the level of the DNA, the chromosomes, and the telomeres. So close your eyes. It's going to be easier to do. And take your entire awareness, your consciousness. Take your consciousness all the way down to your telomeres. Now, take your consciousness to the place where there are photon packages of light, and how that exchange occurs is like a buzz, like a kind of like the sound of bits of information coming back and forth. Almost like high-pitched frequency, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that from this place, especially with your eyes closed, as you allow your consciousness to go, now you'll notice we don't meditate. We actually just do it. And the reason is because we don't want to complicate the experience. It's actually very straightforward for human beings. You can go direct. You do not need practice meditation. This isn't meditation. This is literally going direct with your telomeres. Take your consciousness right to the end of those telomeres, where those exchanges are actually happening. And feel the feeling in your body as you actually bring your awareness to the fact that photon packages of energy are exchanging from the rest of consciousness to you constantly, faster than a millisecond, by the truckload, trillions per second. You are being facilitated by consciousness in a way that's hard to imagine. But we're not imagining it, we're actually getting to experience the buzz. And when you have an aha, when you have one of those great awakening moments where you see something anew and you get goosebumps, it's like a surge of photons. It's like a surge of photon packages of light infused through your skin. Insurgence of deeper truth. Allow yourself. This isn't about interpreting what's going on. You couldn't possibly. It's simply about being in your body and understanding that there's a whole other world going on. While you're thinking that you're living your life, there's a whole other life going on. That if you could embody and integrate with it, you would be able to go direct with all of consciousness and no longer have that doubt. The question now becomes, how do we learn that connection? How do we learn that? One of the things we do is we complicate it. It actually is right, that buzz is right there. It's happening. Whether you feel it or not, it's happening. So it's allowing yourself. One of the things that happens, and Pam is just saying, one of the things that happens when you start to realize that you're being facilitated by all of consciousness, and you already knew it, but you start not to be able to refute it as you start to feel the exchange happen. And the problem is the ego does not want you to feel it. It wants you to think that it's woo-woo. It wants you to question, am I really feeling this? It wants you to say, I'm not doing it right. It's not actually that deep of, I can feel it with my eyes open, actually. It's cellular. It's an interconnection between you and consciousness that is not complicated. Don't complicate it. It's not for the woo-woo people. It's actually happening as we speak. You just need to take your awareness to it. But of course, as you feel it, the ego gets a little bit freaked out because it doesn't want you to know that. But what would you have to take responsibility for if you knew that you actually were being facilitated, even if you didn't know how to interpret the information yet? right? So just feel that, guys. Just feel it. So that's the second part of ending sabotage. The last part is something that's very important to me. And that is the fact that you can transmute thousands of those belief systems. So let's just be clear about what it takes to transcend self-sabotage. The first thing is you have to be willing to accept that you can embody who you really are, that that sense of urgency is a calling to who you are, that the entire universe, that consciousness knew you were before you got here, and that the possibility exists to do that without having to be a guru on a mountaintop. And what's required to do that is being seen, which I'm about to demonstrate with someone, okay? So we're actually gonna do an exercise of fully being seen and seeing that who you are and what's happened to you is actually a catalyst for you to become and embody that. So we're actually going to do an example of that. So again, it's about embodying who you really are such that all of the stuff that's been stopping you starts to become incredibly uninteresting. So instead of excavating, you're actually remembering who you are. The second thing is that you have to be willing to know that every human being came here as a piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth. Consciousness and infinite wisdom, creation, is in and of all things. Now, if you know that to be true, then you know that it's in and of you, and you're on the same trajectory as consciousness, as creation, which is expanding forward and out in flow, because creation only works in flow. It would be very weird if creation made one aspect of all of consciousness to be up and down like a yo-yo on a never-ending roller coaster of never getting anywhere. All conscious wants to do is create upon itself, and you're an aspect of that. And you have the tools. We've just been so busy listening to our mind and the protective mechanisms that we haven't gotten on with it. And we haven't even been interested in remembering who we are. We've been too busy excavating who we aren't. The third part of it is this. You have to be willing to understand that telomeres, or that you have different ways of going direct. And telomeres are just the beginning of it. I mean, we have the capacity to we have so many capacities beyond what we're talking about tonight, but we had to start somewhere, right? And already we've gone a little bit over time. So I'm going to ask everybody right now, I want you to write down right now to do the last part of tonight, to do the demonstration of being seen, what it's like in another, how it occurs for another. Oh, a couple of people just texted. Rob, can you post, if anyone wants to do Get Out of Your Own Way, Rob's going to post a little link, or you're interested in looking. We have an evening event coming up on Wednesday night where you can come and we actually start talking about your innate abilities and activating them. We have something called Get Out of Your Own Way this weekend where we're doing all of this with everyone. So if anyone is interested in that, it's an amazing experience, and we don't do them that often anymore. 25 people in a room with me. But let's ask everyone to do this exercise, okay? The exercise is write down the protective mechanisms or identities that you have taken on that have been distracting you from flying. In other words, I'm responsible for everyone's happiness. I'm the good sister. I'm the one that helps everyone else to fly, but not me. I'm in the background. I Gosh, I'm responsible for my kids' happiness. They don't have telomeres. I have their telomeres. The universe didn't give them telomeres. I'm the one. I'm the one they got to listen to. So I'm going to carry them. What are your protective ways of being? I can tell you some of mine. I certainly had the I already know one. Then nobody could come in here and help me, right? So I had to already know, because if I didn't already know, something bad would happen. I had to maintain control somehow. So if I would just, you know, nobody could teach me anything because I needed to know for myself. Instead of just allowing the information to flow, and I could pick and choose from it what resonated, what didn't resonate, and someone would be allowed to contribute to me. Isn't that heaven on earth? But I couldn't allow myself heaven on earth because, gosh darn it, nobody's allowed in here. I'm just going to already know. So what are your ways of already know? You can type them in, you guys. And Pam, that's exactly it. Worried that once I connect, I won't be able to hide anymore. That's exactly it, my love. And Gabrielle, exactly. This isn't work. It's just an experience. So what are those identities? What are... I can't succeed too much or I'll be seen. Perfect. It's up to me to shift this long-term marriage. No help. Yep, it's all you. Nobody can help. You don't even have infinite wisdom. You don't even have telomeres. All of the above, and many protective identities. You want to really be clear of them, you guys. Others are better than me. I don't have what it takes. Others are already doing that stuff. So funny, right? Okay. Write down some more. Give me some more, because it's going to make this exercise even more poignant. Will be another 10 minutes, you guys. Just stick around for the end of the... It's a really powerful exercise. That I'm tough and strong and I don't need anybody. Oh, I can't possibly relate to that. I'm responsible for all my loved ones' happiness. Yeah, Margaret, I mean, how would you ever, how would you ever get on with your piece of the puzzle? Gosh darn it, they need you, right? Infinite wisdom isn't talking to you, to them. See how it's so insidious, isn't it? So condescending to think that you're the one, if you are meant to help them be happy, then your spirit would be living through their body, but it's not. It's living through yours. You're the one connected to your telomeres and your piece of the puzzle. Okay, I think we got the general idea, you guys. Awesomeness. Awesome, 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 awesome. I need to make people feel better. I have to struggle. Yeah, see, if I don't struggle, then it didn't mean anything. I have to struggle somehow, right? So now we have a whole lot of callers. And I know that these callers are looking for a little bit of love and assistance. And I'm going to ask one of you to volunteer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you what your identity is. And the next thing I'm going to ask right now for everybody is, tell me some of the sabotaging behaviors you do. What do you do in relationships? What do you do? I want you to think. So for the people that are callers, I want you to have a very clear current sabotaging behavior, a thing that you're very clear about doing, okay? So, and if it's not clear enough, we can't do the exercise, so I might have to go to someone else. But I'm going to go in the, let's see, I am going to... If you're on the phone, you're going to press *2, okay? Let's see. I'm going to go first to, I think this is Los Angeles. Who is this calling in Los Angeles?
Hello?
Hi there. Were you volunteering to be our guinea pig?
Yes, please.
Awesome. So what I need to hear is, what is your sabotaging behavior that you do over and over again right now?
It's got to be one.
Well, what's one that's right in front of you right now?
Okay, it's one that I was just working on, which I guess is feeling threatened by the world, feeling threatened by other people, or not feeling worthy.
Cool, cool. And let me ask you, and what's your name? First name.
Yoki.
What is it?
Yoki.
Now, Yoki, are you willing to bare your soul to all of these wonderful people? Because we're going to go pretty deep. So I want to make sure that we have your permission.
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, okay, good. All right. So, and Yoki, where did you grow up?
I grew up in San Francisco in Israel.
Okay, in San Francisco and Israel. Okay, and where did you spend the younger part of your life?
Until I was 14, I was in San Francisco.
Okay, and are you in Israel now?
I'm in New York right now. I'm in New Jersey actually right now.
Okay, all right. And so, okay, so what I want from everybody is I want you to breathe, and I want you to imagine that Yoki is you, okay? And I'm going to take you on an experience. And Yoki, are you willing to transmute a bunch of stuff in a very short amount of time?
Yeah.
And to be seen?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, my dear. So you're in New York right now, and you grew up in San Francisco, right?
Right.
Brothers and sisters?
I'm physically in New Jersey in this moment.
That's okay. Brothers and sisters, New Jersey. Thank you. Brothers and sisters?
Yes, 7 brothers, 1 sister.
7 brothers and 1 sister. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And did your parents stay together?
Yeah, they did.
And are they still together and both alive?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Thank God.
And where did you fit in the pecking order of all those kids?
Second.
Oh, really? Was the first one a boy or a girl?
Older brother.
Okay. So here's cute little you in San Francisco until you're 14, growing up. And let me ask you, and again, I know I asked you and I kept asking you, but this is where it might get tough. What's one of the hardest things that happened to you growing up? The most stressful thing for you to deal with?
A few come to mind, but a lot of yelling and screaming, and my brothers beating up on me, mostly my older brother.
And give me a specific incident that involved you.
I think I got either punched in the face or something got smacked in my face or thrown in my face, like in my nose.
And how old were you?
I don't know. I want to say 7. I'm not sure.
Oh, so there's like physical stuff going on, physical violence going on, as well as yelling and screaming, and you're 7.
Yeah, my brothers are really hyperactive.
And where were you standing when you got punched in the face, so to speak?
I think I was sitting on a chair in the dining room.
Okay. So what did you say to yourself in that moment? Not that was the only incident, but we're going to use it as a representative one so we can transmute all sorts of stuff. Now, I want you to remind everybody, what was the sabotaging behavior that you explained earlier?
Oh. So I'm not remembering my reaction really to that.
No, just answer my question. Just earlier you said when I asked you, you have a sabotaging behavior now.
Oh yeah.
What was that?
Okay, that was not feeling worthy.
So not feeling worthy, not feeling enough. And does that stop you from moving forward with stuff you want to do?
Totally.
Does it stop? And what kind of stuff would you love to be able to do?
Oh, I want to spread a lot of spiritual awakening teachings and do a lot of meditative work with people on a group level. And I'm doing it on a very small individual level right now.
Cool, but you love it.
I love it.
Okay, and you know there's something in that for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool, cool. All right. So here's cute little you, and you're 7 years old. You got a whole bunch of kids in your family. And you're sitting in the dining room table, and whatever's happening around you, with your cute little fairy princessness, one of your brothers punches you in the face. And it kind of comes from left field, right? It just comes from out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And what do you say to yourself? What did you say in that moment?
You know what I said? I just remember like my nose like exploding in pain.
And what did you say to yourself about being in your family at that point?
Oh, dangerous.
So it's dangerous to be in your family. So what's the protective mechanism, or what's the way that you had to change in order to be in that family? How did you have to change yourself to make sure that it wasn't dangerous?
I took care of everybody.
What's that?
I took care of everybody.
So you took care of everybody. If you just took care of everybody, then they wouldn't hurt you?
Yeah, I think I like switched my game with them. Like I wasn't as strong or as fast, so I had to change my game.
So your game was, so because you weren't fast, your game was if you were just kind and sweet to everybody. And was it about making people make sure everybody liked you, or was it something different? Or make sure you help everybody?
I think it was maybe not calling attention to myself.
So it's not rocking the boat.
Yeah.
So if you were just under the radar and didn't rock the boat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then everything would be okay. Now, sometimes did not rocking the boat work?
Yeah.
So that's a problem, because sometimes not rocking the boat work. Now, let me ask you something. Did anyone care about how you felt?
Not to my knowledge.
Right. It didn't seem like everyone was so worried about themselves that they weren't really concerning themselves with how you felt, right?
Right.
Now, as soon as you say to yourself, my God, what's really important here is that I morph myself and I change myself, and I don't honor my feelings. My feelings don't matter. Clearly, they don't matter to all of those other people in my family. So my feelings don't matter. What matters right now is survival and not getting hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to know that your telomeres are the readers of the feelings. Your telomeres are literally the readers of the instincts. Do you understand? And as soon as you say, my feelings don't matter, although your strategy was quite good, because I'm sure that it worked sometimes, flying under the radar, not rocking the boat, not speaking your truth, not saying anything that would upset anybody, right?
Right.
Now, would you say that that decision has paid itself forward the entire rest of your life?
Oh, it's worked pretty well in a lot of ways.
Sure, but have you taken that way of being and paid it forward the rest of your life? Pretty much not rocking the boat too much, trying to be relatively nice.
Oh, very nice.
Right? Staying under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Because if you're under the radar, you won't get hurt, right?
Right. Oh, I love what you did there.
And then what you said is, my feelings don't matter. What matters more than my feelings, which, by the way, is basically the same thing as saying, what matters more than me, what matters more than my piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth, which gets expressed to and from me from infinite wisdom through my instincts, which go through my telomeres. But since What's more important to me right now is I just don't want to be judged or hurt or punched or anything like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dull down the very instincts that would have me fly. And I'm going to choose to try to make sure that I don't rock the boat, that I don't shine my light, that I don't speak my truth, that I don't put myself out there, because I'm going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see how that happens?
Oh, yeah.
And do you see how that has happened?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, would you like to kind of move that a little bit?
Yeah, there's so much fear around stepping out and being seen.
Well, can you get that this lifetime is just an extrapolation of other lifetimes and that this isn't the first time?
Mm. Yeah.
Can you get that your fear, based on your life experience, it's not rational? Like, you don't have evidence in your adult life for that.
Right.
You don't have evidence. You're acting like you're going to die if you put yourself out there. Can you see how huge you've made it?
Yes.
Right. Like, you're literally making decisions based on it's as scary as you're going to get killed if you actually let yourself be seen.
Yeah.
So can I take you through a little journey for a second?
Yes. Please.
So is there or is there not infinite wisdom?
Sure.
Were you or were you not dreamed into existence by infinite wisdom?
I am. I was.
Are you an expression of that same omnipotent, omniscient wisdom? Are you in the same flow? Are you of that stuff?
Yes.
Okay. Does that stuff ever get hurt?
No.
Does that stuff ever die? Does creation die?
No.
And the essence of you, can that ever die whether you have a body or not?
Well, no.
So, my question to you is, how much longer are you going to keep believing your brothers that the world is a scary place over all of creation?
Not any longer.
Well, here's the thing. If you're willing to believe your instincts, that you're here as a piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth, and do you have something to contribute or not?
I do. I have a lot to contribute.
And have you been contributing it?
I have to as much as I know how.
And are people going to judge you like crazy?
Possibly.
They could.
Yeah.
And are people going to judge you like crazy if you don't do it?
Yeah.
So here's the thing. The universe really fundamentally created you. It really is the only parent. All the rest of this stuff is stuff that human beings made up. Can you get that?
Yeah.
It's just biological delivery units and then associated delivered units. The truth is, the people that you're going to be working with most are going to be those people that felt like they were under the radar, that they flew softly under the radar, that they tried not to rock the boat. They felt like they didn't belong, that they didn't understand why everyone was the way they were. And that the people that you are going to assist are the very people that have felt like they don't have a voice or they haven't been able to express. How much longer do you want them to keep flying under the radar and not have a voice and not express?
Wow, that's beautiful.
And who better to bridge them back to who they are than someone who's bridged themselves back to who they are? And how could the universe not support you? That would be impossible. Does that feel consistent with your expansive flow forward?
Yes.
Then how could you not be supported, right?
Right.
So, my dear, now that I've said that, what just happened? What just happened to your interest in following sabotaging behaviors?
I can't even think about it.
Isn't it fascinating?
Yeah.
And
I literally can't go there.
And where did all of the sabotaging, like, can you feel how there's other sabotaging ways that you've been that sort of supported that initial one that you expressed? You probably can't even find those either. Can you see those ones?
I'm like getting my lower back to see like if it's opened up, because I feel like that's been a big one also, saying my body's not going to go with me.
Can you feel how if you stayed on this trajectory, your body would have to follow you?
Yes.
Right? This is how it happens, my dear. It's a subatomic cellular remembrance. It's your left brain and your right brain reconciling with each other. And it's an activation of the deeper knowing. Does that make sense?
Totally.
And that deeper knowing has you not get rid of all the fears and all that stuff, but it has you start to realize how distracting and uninteresting they are, such that the focal point becomes moving forward. Now, does that mean you do it alone? No. Does that mean you don't get help? Absolutely not. You're still in a body on a planet. But this is just the beginning of the journey that we call Get Out of Your Own Way. So I wanted to share that with you, and I hope that it made a difference, yes?
That was awesome.
Yeah, and thank you for being courageous and being someone that I don't know and being willing to go there. So it's just big hugs over to you in New Jersey, okay?
With so much love, Jennifer. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. So everyone, finally, Rob, if you can again post the link to our Get Out of Your Own Way. Some form of that and a much deeper and longer version of what we just did with my lovely friend in New Jersey is what we do in Get Out of Your Own Way, and we're doing it this coming weekend. We'll also be working with people on Wednesday. I'd love for you to go and check that out. We're doing also an online version of Get Out of Your Own Way, which we'll be announcing soon, but live is pretty special. So we'd love for you to be able to do that and to see all of the other innate abilities that human beings have. I hope you can go to www.thewideawakening.com/get-out, and you'll find out about our upcoming workshops. So now we've gone a half an hour overtime, and I wanted to make sure that that I just really appreciate all of you. I know many of you have done Get Out of Your Own Way because I'm seeing some of the names here. And I appreciate your cheerleading. I know what that's meant to many of you. Many of you have done Get Out of Your Own Way many times. And that really is ultimately where I'd love the whole world to play. I wanted to full circle the story with Angel, because the interesting thing is I remember people asking me, Jennifer, did you ever meet Angel again? And did she ever tell you what happened? And I never did, but you know, I've had so many emails over the years of telling this story that people who had someone like me to listen to, who were told they were schizophrenic, living on the streets or whatever. And the most amazing thing was the first email that I got saying, Jennifer, I had someone just like you walk me to the psych ward, and it did change my life, and I wouldn't have, so we all get to be that person for it's our awakening that gets to be that person for somebody else. It's in the embodiment. So guys, the purpose of tonight was to give you some tools to activate. One of my favorite tools is to say, show me. Before I go to bed at night, to say, show me. Show me. But the problem is when you say, show me, you're going to get shown stuff that, who you are. You're going to get shown things about what you've let stop you that's kind of not so hot. Show me are two very powerful words when you speak them through your telomeres out into the universe, which you can't help but do. So just be aware that that tool alone is very powerful. For those of you, we've done 3 exercises of about 25 exercises that we do and Get Out of Your Way with 25 individual people. And the cool thing is that with each of the people in Get Out of Your Own Way, I'm literally seeing you because you're in front of me. So the actuality is you're there, and I'm seeing your energy and the entirety of that that hologram all the way back and all the way forward, and can see the questions that are to be asked, just like we just did with my friend in New Jersey. And what happens is we take you through a process of remembering, and we do it with 25 different people. And after having done it with 25 different people, you get all 25 of all those activations and all 25 of those shifts in your multi-dimensions, such that you start to be able to not only see who you are, but thousands of belief systems get transmuted in the process of Get Out of Your Own Way. So, and thank you, Jan, for saying that. She says, thank you for being that courageous person who's willing to go there. So, and what I want to say to all of you is thank you for having the courageousness to be here tonight. Thank you I know what it takes. If anyone knows what it takes, I know what it takes to allow yourself to be seen. This is some pretty amazing stuff that we're talking about. And to be able to challenge an entire, really talk about something beyond the industry of fixing ourselves and going to counselors and that you actually can transmute paths that you thought were impossible through this technology. And I wanted each and every one of you to kind of experience what it's like to have the activation of knowing that the entire universe knew you were a good idea before you got here, to be able to go through the process of somebody being seen so you can understand why the past becomes incredibly uninteresting, to be able to understand that it's fixing ourselves is a convenient distraction, but awakening is a whole different journey. And to open that up for others, to have you understand that there's a whole other way, is just such a passion for me. Because then what happens is, what I said in that moment with Angel was, I never want another, if it's on my watch, if there is a way to change humanity such that we can all be empowered to fly forward with the truth of who we are, without needing to dog eat dog and to transcend the need to act from limits, actually be that expansive being we came here to be, I will do everything in my power anywhere in the world to be able to find that congruence again with individuals and in groups and in corporations. So when I share with you about this upcoming Get Out of Your Own Way, it's not something that I share lightly. And I really encourage you to consider, changing plans and being willing to come and play. So I hope you guys got lots out of tonight. So, and thank you for those in the UK who stayed up to 3 a.m. in the morning to listen, I see. Love you guys so much. And again, I just deeply appreciate your willingness to stay through the process. And I would love, and again, the link to Get Out of Your Way is on your screen if you're on Webinars on Air. If you're not, it's thewideawakening.com//get out. And certainly come to the free event, or the, well, it's actually $30. It's not very much. The event that we're having where we do 2.5 hours of just activating and awakening and channeling and asking questions, very powerful, on Wednesday night in Windsor, just next to Michigan, right at the bridge to Detroit. So you can come from Canada or the United States. Love to have you live. Finally, and I see a whole bunch of people putting up their hands, Robin and Will Jackson, a whole bunch of people on Webinars on Air willing to do it live and be seen as well. And I just want to appreciate your courage too. I would love to hear if you know, one of the most powerful parts of one of our get-togethers is just sharing. What did you hear that made a difference to you tonight in the chat room or wherever? What did you hear tonight that truly, truly made a difference? What expanded you? What was a new awareness? What was a new understanding? What was an opening? What did you need to hear? What changed how you looked at self-sabotage? What did that for you? I'd love to hear from you. And I'm going to go, let's see, I'm going to go to the phones. If you have something to share and you're on the phone, just press *2 and I'll pick up the line. And remember that by sharing it, it deepens it for you, but we also get to talk together, and I can even assist you to see it more deeply. So it's *2, you guys, and you're also helping everyone else by activating something new. So I'm going to go to area code 509. I think it's Washington. I'm not sure. Hi there. Who is that?
Hi, this is Kathy.
Kathy, do tell.
Hi. No, the part that affected me the most was the second part you did, just feeling into the ends of the telomeres.
Ah, and isn't it palpable?
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like there's no refuting that feeling. I mean, it's always been there. You can access it whenever. You know, we talk about telomeric breathing in some workshops that we do, where you actually start to exercise your telomeres and make them longer, which makes you an even better receptor of that same wisdom. So it's very cool. I'm glad that that touched you. Thank you for sharing, Kathy.
Yeah, thank you.
Big hugs. All right, let me share a few other people too. Kathy's saying, oh, Get Out of Your Way is such an incredible event, life-changing and very powerful. Thanks, sweetie pie. And someone else is saying, Suzanne is saying that the universe is actually my true parent. And that's why we project on our parents that they should be perfect in every way, because the universe is perfect. And we forget that our parent is the universe, and then we project it on our human parents, and that they don't stand a chance to be like the universe. Look, the universe unconditionally loves you. It does all those things that you project that your parents should do. Take the pressure off them. My goodness, right? So Kay is saying, I seem to be, oh, that's so funny. Let's see. What I heard tonight that I loved hearing is that I can change. Oh, Carla, oh my God. Everyone can change. There isn't anyone that can't. So thanks, you guys. I know that there's more, but I think we'll stop there. And I'm just going to say, again, how deeply appreciative I am. I hope that we see many of you at the evening event, at very least, and I get to witness you and see that hologram and assist you and activate. And at very most, I would adore seeing you Get Out of Your Way. That would be so fabulous. We will have a recording for this particular event. So we'll post the recording, both the video and the audio, on our Facebook page. If you want to go and like us, it's facebook.com//Wide Awakening. Okay. The other thing I want to share is this, that we have a free activation called Be the Change. If you haven't yet signed up for our newsletter, you can go to thewideawakening.com in the upper right-hand corner, and we do weekly activations. So we'd love to have you hanging out with us there. Please read them in the, make sure you read them in the week that we do the activation, because it's actually for the energy of that week. Jan is saying, I love Show Me. That's going to make a big difference. She said also, it was easy to feel the telomeres in action. I can see them growing with my attention. Absolutely. And then there's learning the language, Jan. That's our Innate Abilities program. Robin says, saying what was sabotaging me, actually seeing it on the chat made me realize where it was coming from. I'm always the one that can assist others to figure out their issues, but didn't realize that my own issue in regards to this. Dope. Awesome. Awesome, you guys. In the meantime, I just want to blow you a big kiss. And again, I can't wait to see many of you live. Come and play. And for those of you that we don't see live, just come and play anyways. And Viviana, hugs right to you too over in California. I miss you, girl. All right, you guys, I'm going to open up the lines on the phone. Hey, everybody, good night. Have a great rest of your evening. And remember to ask the universe to show me, okay?
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Lots of love. Good night.
This concludes the How to End Self Sabotage webinar. For more information on upcoming programs, workshops, and live events near you, visit www.thewideawakening.com.